Welcome to Just Another Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Soderberg. We're here today with a friend in the brewing industry, Jillian. How are you, Jillian?
Hey, I'm doing good.
Good, yeah. We're distance away, so Jillian is in North Carolina. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. And she works for Oskar Blues Brewery down there. She does many different things, right?
Yeah. Kind of all over the
Whatever they
place in the beer industry.
whatever they tell you to do, wherever you go, right? I mean, that's the way most of us do it. So.
hmm
But also, not to harp on it, but she also has over 15,000 Instagram followers. One question I actually do have, I don't want to do like very many interview question kind of things, but was there a big jump from 0 to 15,000, or was it gradual over the years?
No, it was a pretty big jump. I still remember like high-fiving my manager at the time, my bar manager, when I got like to 1,000. I kind of just did it, like just to kind of like challenge myself and see if I could. I had some other friends working at breweries that were getting into social media, and I kind of just wanted to, I don't know, see if I could do it.
Mhm.
And it just exploded out of nowhere. And now I just kind of have this like beast of, an Instagram that's 15,000 followers. I know it's, nothing crazy or anything, but, for the average person, the other day I was thinking about it, and the town that I'm living in right now has 7,000 people. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have more followers on my Instagram than the town that I'm living in. Like, how is this possible?
And it's great because I think we obviously, you get some beer from Orno Brewing Company. So,
Yes.
at my day job, we send you beer.
Yeah.
And part of it is we send beer to people who have thousands of followers because obviously it helps us promote our beer. You like our beer anyway. So it's not just,
Yes.
the, sending you beer that you like. You like
Yeah.
our beer as a first place. You come visit us up in Bangor or Orno, I should say,
Yeah.
and so on. But is it
I
now
have my
something
hat
that's,
from that.
oh, there you go. Is it feel like, we'll get into some more beer questions, but since we're on the social media topic, does it feel like there's pressure now that you have 15,000 followers that like you have to put
Yes.
content on there?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And there'll be times, especially with everything that's going on, with the pandemic and COVID, where I can just be like mentally exhausted, especially, I work 10-hour shifts. So we work 4 10-hour shifts, which is great. But it's just a really, really long day. And, there's certain times when it's better to post in the morning. First thing in the morning is always better to post. So if I like miss like past 10 o'clock, I'm like, well, no, I can't post today. Like, so yeah, certain days of the week are better. Saturday's always gonna be better than, like a Monday. But yeah, I definitely feel pressure just to post, more like beer posts and things like that on that started out as my personal Instagram. So if you go back far enough, there's just like horrible selfies and stuff from like a while ago. I should probably get rid of this. Just like really cringy, like
Mhm.
embarrassing stuff that, like pictures of food or whatever, like, I don't know, from like 7 years ago. And now I have like a separate personal Instagram account, and I try really hard to post pictures with no makeup on that one and no filters and everything, because I think it is important for people to see me like as a normal person as well, not just, made up all the time. Yeah, there's definitely certain pressures, and sometimes I'll have 3 days off in a row, and I'll like won't pick up my phone the whole 3 days because I just like can't handle like just the social aspect of everything on top of, everything else that's going on.
And I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast with Hannibal Buress on the way to work this morning, and he does that every once in a while too, where he just like Hannibal Buress will just take his phone and like give it to his manager and be like, I want to tweet something or I want to post something, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to see what's on Instagram. I don't want to see what's going on in the world. You just take it and run with it. What I will say about Jillian's Instagram is that it is the experience of what a female brewery industry person is, and not, when you wrote your first post when I first got introduced to you about coming to visit Orno Brewing Company in Margin
Yeah.
Street, and how the experience it was, not, like I said, not trying to get followers off of the pictures, but more of the experience. And that's something that I've always respected from you, Jillian. So just so you know. But yeah, so it's really nice to see that, because I mean, what we talked about when we messaged this morning about what we're going to talk about a little bit, which was you're in a male-dominated industry, not just on the brewing side, and you're able to just run with it and be like, no, I'm a woman. I'm in the beer industry, and this is my experience in the beer industry. Is that like what you try to
Yeah.
do on there? Or?
Yeah, I try and be a little bit more professional. Since like I've gotten a job offers through it. That's actually how I got my job at Oskar Blues. The old cellar manager reached out to me through there. So I try and be a little bit more professional. I still do shotguns and curse and stuff like that. Um, but and I think when those beer Instagrams started popping up with, girls in their bikinis and stuff, at first I was kind of like, oh, well, that's disrespectful the beer. And then I realized, like, what, I'm just so happy that, there are girls drinking beer. And if you want to drink beer, with no top on, or you want to drink beer, however you want to do it, drink beer, and you're not drinking a cocktail, or you're not drinking liquor, and you're promoting, and maybe getting other people to drink beer, then that's fucking awesome.
That is great, because I didn't, reason why I like also talking to you about this is because that is something that I didn't think about. As a male, I just thought, oh, it's a picture of a beer with boobs, and you're talking that it's getting people into the industry and potentially maybe someone opening up to something that they may not have liked in the first place. That's an
Yeah.
awesome way to think about it, because like no matter what's in the picture, there's a beer in that picture, and that's what helps you get a job. You get a paycheck because people buy beer from Oskar Blues. I get a paycheck because people buy beer from Warner Brewing Company. You're not getting paid
That's
to have
not hard
15,000
filter, and it's
followers.
not.
You know what I mean? You're not getting paid right now. You don't have any. You're not any. You have enough followers that you probably could get some money for some things that you post, but you're not, right? You're just doing your job, and the Instagram just comes along with it.
Yeah. I'll randomly get people who will ask me to, advertise things for them, and there just hasn't really been the right product yet that I've found. Maybe someday, but it's just got to be something I'm really, really interested in. I want to make sure it's companies that have, good ethics, and not just, hawking something just to get paid for it. I want it to be something, I really believe in.
Which is good, because you want to be able to use the products that you like. If you do dye your hair, you obviously have pink hair right now. But if someone came to you and was like, hey, we make this hair dye, and but you don't believe in it, they're tested on animals, and they do this, that, and the other thing, you're just gonna be like, well, I wouldn't use it, so why would I tell my 15,000 followers that I use it, or to buy it at least? So that's pretty. I mean, what I've seen, again, I don't want to amp up Jillian here at all, make her head too big to go to work later on, but like it's it's a respectable Instagram that promotes beer, and is a fun. Like I said, I'm going to put in the little article or the post that I put with this podcast, that you should follow her, because it's more than just pictures of beer. I mean, the number of times I've logged on and seen your Instagram and seen you covered in shit because you got not shit literally, but like hops or whatever it may be, the sludge that comes out of a, yeah, exactly. So it's like, it's nice to see that you're just being like, I'm not this perfect person, even at work or at home or whatever. This is who I am now. And that's what's great. I mean, there's some people who are super artificial or superficial, I should say, on Facebook or Instagram, and lady in the
I think
tricep
it's
is
really
not.
important too, just to remind people in the brewing industry that everyone makes mistakes, because we beat ourselves up so bad over the tiniest things all the time. And I have all of these stories from brewers from all over the country now, like who, mess up and will reach out to me like, oh, don't worry that you did this, like I did this the other day, or, and so it's great to have that camaraderie and to know that, like, okay, all right, like it's not a big deal, as long as I learned from this mistake, like it's no big deal. There was a cellarman that actually stayed with us for 2 years who like ended up being like one of our star employees, but his first week there, he took off the bottom valve of a fermentation tank that was 300 barrels. He was cleaning a tank and just went to take the wrong one off, and had 300 barrels of beer draining out of a tank at 15 psi.
And we see those all the time. We follow it, like you obviously you're probably on Reddit and things like that. You see those brewing industry pages where, someone didn't turn the knobs at the top and it's coming out the top, and people, did all kinds of stupid things. And the funny thing about it is we laugh, but in the same sense, in our minds, we're crying too. Like in our insides, we're crying, because we're like, if that was us, I don't even know what I would do. I would probably walk out. I would probably leave, and you'd see me tomorrow. I probably wouldn't get fired for it, but I'm like, I just have to go. Like, this is it. I mean, we've seen it in our brewery. I mean, one of our, depressurized a tank that was the wrong, like he opened the tank to dry hop, and it was the one that we were canning off of that he accidentally opened. So it was under pressure. And I'm in my office, which is in another room. And I just heard bang, and I'm like, what was that? So all of us go running, and luckily everybody was safe, and it was a mistake, and we were able to catch it at the right time and save everything. But like, there's mistakes that people make. I mean, you're talking your top brewery people in the world have made the kind of mistakes that Jillian's made, but she's not going to hide it. She's going to put it on her Instagram so everybody can
Yep.
see it and say, I made a mistake. Let's move on from it. But so she works for Oskar Blues now, right? I mean, you started there how long ago now?
About 7.5 months ago.
Okay. And that's where you came from Florida. You were in Florida for a little while, but you're from Arizona. Is that the trajectory? But you've worked. How many different breweries have you worked for now?
I mean, technically, like long term, like 3. There's been like job interviews that I've done at other breweries. There's one here in Asheville that kind of tested out for a few weeks and it just wasn't the right fit. But yeah, I was born and raised in Arizona. I don't tell people in North Carolina that I lived in Florida just because everyone in North Carolina hates people from Florida. But yeah, I lived in Florida for a couple of years. So I was dating someone who got relocated out there and then immediately like regretted living in Orlando. There are some parts about Florida that are really awesome, like the Tampa beer industry, and the Orlando beer industry is great too. But it's just not, I'm more of like a mountain kind of girl versus like beaches and everything. But yeah, so I've worked at 2 breweries in Orlando and then Oskar Blues here.
And it's funny because you see the relation. Like Jillian also works at a brewery, but I also work at a brewery. I'm the general manager, so I do more of the front of house stuff and the can labels and all that stuff. And you're in the actual brewery. You also work in a brewery that, like, up until we got our 60 barrel fermenter, you have fermenters that are like the size of our entire brewery.
Yeah.
Like, so like the difference in Oskar Blues and Orono Brewing Company, which in the state of Maine are distributed by the same distributor.
Yeah.
So
that's
there
cool.
you go.
Yeah.
But Oskar Blues in this is their second brewery, or they have 3 breweries?
I want to say they have at least 3 because there's one in Austin, there's one in Colorado, then there's one here. There might even be one in. Yeah, I believe that's it too.
But yeah, if there is, it's more smaller. It's not, but like it was basically they started in Colorado, right? And then they
started in a basement in Colorado. I think the first Dales, which is like our like main flagship, was made in a bathtub.
There you go.
Yeah.
What was I just thinking of? One of my bartenders sent me a Snapchat on Saturday morning before she came to work of her dog licking, like, in a puddle, like splashing around a puddle and licking the puddle. And I was like, try to relate, every once in a while, I try to relate dogs to humans. And I go, can you imagine if you just were in a bathtub and you just started drinking the water you were in a bathtub with? How gross that would be.
We have an employee beer pile at Oskar Blues, like all of our low fill cans and high fill cans. I'm actually drinking employee beer right now. And we end up crushing most of it because we just can't drink it enough. We try really hard to the point like all of us are gonna die because we're drinking so much. But I have been thinking about doing like filling up like a bathtub with like a kiddie pool with Highlight or beer, like old beer that's just gonna get recycled and dumped out because we just have so much of it. So I'll let you know. Maybe I'll take a sip of it and let you know how it tastes.
Well, so if it's Dale's Pale Ale, hell yeah, I'm gonna drink it. But if it's just the dirty bathwater, that's a completely different story. Like, but that is funny because, like I said, if you think about that's a cool way of actually relating it between breweries. Orono Brewing Company, we have cases of cans where people are like, is there any short fills left? It's like that aspect of like, is there any left? Because Parker and Tom and the guys in the brewery are trying to kick ass and make no short fills or high fills or bad cans, which every brewery tries to. But the truth of the matter is, to anybody who doesn't work in the beer industry, is there's always cans that come off the canning line that are not sellable to customers. It does not mean they're doing a bad job. It does not mean the canning line's not working. There's just times where you're trying to set the levels and all that shit that's the reason why you don't have cans. But they'll be like, is there any? And at your place, you're like, there's never that comment, is there any? It's just there's too many. It's almost like, and you don't, and it's the kind of thing you don't want to give. Like, if you came up and visited us, whether you're a friend of ours, which you are, or you're just from Oskar Blues visiting Orono, we'd give you a 4-pack out of the cooler that we sell to a customer, not the 4-pack of short fills. So it's not even like one of those things where you like want to go to your neighbor breweries and be like, hey, have some Dale's Pale Ale. Because you don't want to give them that crap. That's like crappy, but like,
you have to like preface it and be like, hey, by the way, like this is not an accurate representation of our brand. Like, still beer, but
because a lot of that beer we drink, we have to drink it soon. If you don't drink it soon, then it goes bad. And then you end up, I got that Dale's Pale Ale from Oskar Blues that someone from the brewery gave me, and 3 months later I tried to drink it and it was brown. It's like, well, that's because you didn't drink it within a couple of weeks of it being given to you, and it shouldn't be like that on the shelf. That's the reason why we didn't sell it to you. That's why we gave it to you. And that's a
Yep.
little bit of the learning curve that some people just don't understand. But that's pretty funny. I think I've seen you post something about you crushing cans. You guys use a
Yeah.
can crusher thing.
Yeah, our can crusher, which is great when you're in a bad mood. Yeah, I was in a really bad mood that day, and it made me feel so much better. Just chucking full cans of beer, like as hard as you possibly can, at this machine, and it crushes them. Yeah, I feel like I'm like such like a beer snob now. I'll find beers from like a week ago, or like my boyfriend will be pouring me one, and I'm like, oh, how old is it? And he's like, last week. And I'm like, oh, I don't want that. Like, I'm not drinking that. It's a week old. Like, why? No.
And it's funny because I in my fridge I have a beer that we made in January, and it's a fresh beer in January, and it tastes great. But again, you're right. There's this, I bought the 4-pack, so it's not like it was short fills. It was a customer sold 4-pack, and I go to drink it, and I'm like, it's gonna taste great because we hope that most of our beer tastes good 6-8 months from now. We just know that the likelihood it's gonna taste the same in 3 months for an IPA or whatever is not right. So I keep on avoiding it, and I'm like, what am I avoiding it for? I should have drinking it at 4 months. Now it's at 6 months. Now I'm definitely not going to drink it. So now I'm now it's just in the cooler, taking up space where I could put fresh beer in. But it's kind of funny.
I have a full fridge that like is still stocked with Orno beer from the first round that you sent me. Like if it's special beer that people have sent me, then I like hoard it and I like treat it like it's like liquid gold. And my boyfriend's always like, hey, are we gonna drink this or what are we doing with this? Like, can we make some room in the fridge for food or so still have a couple of your beers that I need to drink, and I've promised myself I was gonna get better about that this year. It's like one of my New Year's resolutions after I opened up like a 6-month-old like IPA. I was like, oh no, like this is not how that was supposed to taste.
And it's funny because like you can tell too immediately. You open it, you smell it, or you see it, and you're just like, yep, didn't check the bottom of that can. That one should have been drank a while ago. And then you kind of like, for us, obviously not for you because you're at Oskar Blues and there's like you said, like there's almost too many. And for us, then I feel bad. Then I'm like the guy in the kitchen who was like, is there any short fills of tubular this week? And I took a 4-pack home and I only drank 2 of them. And then a couple of weeks later, I'm like, oh crap, that guy could have drinking that beer that I'm about to dump down the drain. And now I feel bad, but it's like, when we first opened our canning line or canned at Orno Brewing Company, we canned Hazelnut Brown was our first beer because cheap beer to can or to brew, cheaper beer to brew. So you want to, if you screw up, then you want to be able to have the cheapest beer. Our neighbor brewery down the street, Marsh Island, brewed their like flagship IPA as their first canned beer, and they realized how expensive it was to can a IPA in their first canning line. But we had it forever. It was just in the walk-in. People were like, "Hey, there's still brown ale in the walk-in." We're all like, "Oh my god, I'm drinking way too much of that right now." And now you walk in there and there's like, "Oh my god, there's not even a 4-pack. There's 3 cans left." Because people just want to drink it, and it's a nice thing to be part of a brewery for that. But like you said, sometimes there's just too much for everybody, and at that point you're like, I can't drink all of this. If I do, then I'm going to become an alcoholic, and this is not going to be good. But I mean, so so day to day, are you doing mostly transfers and things like that, or what are you doing now at Oskar Blues?
So we pretty much do all of our transfers like in line through our fuge. We fuge every beer that we have, minus like our Pilsner. We filter that through like our filter still. So I don't have to do like a lot of like the smaller stuff I used to have to do in breweries. So the first brewery that I worked at was a 10-barrel system. So it's been nice to see like the gradual increase. The next brewery I worked at after that had like 30s and 45 barrels. And I remember thinking those were so big. And I remember my first transfer, I was thinking about this the other day, my first transfer, I was like shaking. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much money if I mess up. If I don't tighten a tri-clamp enough and it gets oxidized, or all the little mistakes that you can make. And I was so nervous. And now I'm like cleaning like 300 barrel tanks and stuff and working with 300 barrels. And like, I don't even bat an eye. Like I pick up we use 2-inch tri-clamps now for pretty much everything. And I'll pick up like an 1.5-inch tri-clamp. And I'm like, wow, this is so much smaller. But, but so day to day, like overnights have been really awesome for me. We have like 3 different schedules that we have. We do 5 a.m. to 3 p.m., 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., and then 7:30 p.m. to 5:30. And I was dreading overnights for a while. I've just always heard from everyone in the industry that, it's horrible and it's really hard on your home life. And It's just like the worst shift possible, and I have been enjoying it so much. Like, I have this problem where I feel like I take other people's advice to heart before experiencing it myself, and I keep doing that with a bunch of stuff, and then I experience it and I'm like, oh, why was I worried for like 6 months, like, having anxiety about this? And it's absolutely awesome, and I love it. Like, I should have tried it for myself before just taking someone else's opinion. But being on overnights, there's less people, and I get kind of like stage fright if someone's watching me do something. Like, I suddenly don't know how to like work a tri-clamp anymore, and I'm like, oh, is this gasket, like, is there a right way to put this on? And so working on overnights, I've just really had the chance to kind of grow my confidence and just to shine. And a lot of my coworkers, my bosses and stuff have noticed too, which has been awesome, to get that recognition. But so I just have more repetition, on like using like our hop cannons, which is really fun. I love doing that. Although, yeah, there's a couple posts where I post pictures and there's just hops everywhere, because I am notorious for getting it clogged. I think I've gotten it clogged in more ways that people never have before. Like, working at Oskar Blues, I'm like, why is it always me? Like, how does this always happen to me? It happened to one of my coworkers the other day, who's a little bit younger, and like a part of me was like, oh, thank God, like, I'm so glad someone else finally did it. But at the same time, like, oh, I'm so sorry, I feel your pain, like, I don't want you to go through that, but like, thank you
Not
for
just
someone
me.
else doing it. But yeah, and I've learned how to like run our fuge independently now. Like, before, that was something too that I was really scared to use. It's a $500,000 piece of machinery, and if something goes wrong and you break that $500,000 piece of machinery, the whole production facility is stopped dead in its tracks, because we fuge every single beer.
Mm-hmm.
So that was insanely nerve-wracking, and there was a couple ex-employees who didn't get fired either. Like, one person imploded a tank, using the fuge, and that's still sitting outside out back. That was a 200-barrel tank, and you can see like all the dents and stuff.
When you get hired, do they walk you by that?
No.
They're kind of just, they don't say anything. You just like show it to you, so you kind of like subconsciously go, oh.
No, I didn't even know it was there forever. A couple months in, someone showed me, and I was like, oh my God, that is like one of like the worst nightmares, is like imploding or like exploding a tank. And then someone else exploded, like a bright door buckled out from the pressure on the fuge. And that's even worse, because that's over near packaging. So if it would have exploded, it would have done a lot more devastation to everyone on that side of the brewery, whereas in the cellar, there's less of us at least. But yeah, basically we take care of everything about the beer, like after it's been brewed on the cold side. But yeah, I still do, CIPs and SIPs, like cleaning tanks and sanitizing tanks and stuff for the brewers. Just everything's just on a much, much larger scale. And all the brewery toys I get to play with now are really cool, just because Oskar Blues, of course, is a bigger company, so they have more money at their disposal. So it's been fun getting to use all these tools that I've heard about, and they make my life so much easier. And I can't wait until I finally go back to like a smaller craft brewery, because ultimately, that's where I want to be at. I just want to kind of round out my resume and get experience all across the board, and see kind of what works best for me. But I'm so spoiled now. I'm sure I'm gonna be just a headache and a half for whatever head brewer I have next, because I'm gonna be like, well, if we had a density meter for
exactly.
only $450, then
it is funny, because it is true. I mean, we are spoiled in Maine because there is no breweries your size. Like, there's no breweries. There's Allagash, but Allagash isn't even, I wouldn't even think it's the size of Oskar Blues in a sense. Like, Allagash has one brewery in Maine. Yeah. Oskar Blues has to deal with multiple breweries that are in the scale that distribute nationwide. So like, Allagash is our number, like, top on that style. Like, and this is Sea Dogs and those kind of guys too. But like, but the idea that whenever I'm like, hey, so and so comes to work for our brewery, it's like they're coming from a brewery that's either smaller or the same size as us. So you're working at a big brewery is fun, and you get to learn a bunch of stuff. You get to play with some fun toys, but really the nitty and gritty and like the getting down and dirty and getting like to actually do a lot of things with your hands is your smaller breweries. Because once you get to a size, it's boop, 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 and things happen for you. So yeah, it is kind of cool that you have the goal to eventually work. I mean, and I'm guessing other than the people who are up top at Oskar Blues, that's probably the goal from a lot of people at the same level as you are, is that you're not just going to be a cellar person for the rest of your life cleaning tanks, because that just seems like, there's a progression in breweries.
Oh
It's
yeah,
not just,
yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it's nice. Our last 2 employees have come from Poland Spring.
Uh-huh.
So we've actually got 2 people from the water industry, and it's
Oh
kind of
yeah,
funny. And
that's
I make the
awesome.
joke because I'm like, they came from a water industry to a water industry.
Yeah.
Most of beer is just water. So
Yep, 90% of beer is water. Yeah, that's really cool. That's super helpful. Yeah, I love all the different backgrounds that you can come from too, and there's just so many different avenues in beer. Like it's not just beer. There's fermentation science and learning about water and hops and malt. Like there's never like you never get bored. There's always something to learn. There's always something new to read. There's always a new style, and like with like the Kveik yeast that have been popular, like coming back into style over the past couple of years. Like there's just so much experimentation that I love it. Like I never get bored. I never go to work and I'm like, oh man, I hate this. Like even in like a huge, like production, like warehouse facility, like I'm still excited to go to work. Like I had 6 days off, um, you know, just recently. And by like the end of like the 5th or 6th day, I was like, oh, like, can I go back to work yet? Like,
did you take a break at all? Were you working all the way through this COVID thing?
No, yeah, I've been working through COVID
So,
completely. There
I
was,
mean, were you guys canning more beer than normal? Is that what the problem? Like,
yeah,
I know we were canning a lot more than normal. Were you guys too? Yeah.
yeah, our canning like ramped up like crazy, which was awesome, which is kind of like what kept our doors open, to be honest. We
Same
haven't
here.
done like a lot of kegging. Like we're just starting to get like the keg line and stuff going again, but for a couple months that's just been kind of collecting dust. And when everything happened, Oskar Blues cut our hours to 30 hours a week instead of 40, just because they weren't really sure what was going to happen. But we get health insurance completely paid for, which is awesome. And 30 hours is the minimum that we can still have our health insurance. So they're trying to keep us at that. And then once they saw, the trends that people were still drinking beer because now they're at home and, have nothing else to do, they bumped our hours back up to 40. But yeah, they've been really awesome throughout, this whole pandemic. And if anyone was, too nervous or stressed out or scared to come to work, it was no problem whatsoever. Like you were able to stay home and you would still have your job. And there was part of me that wanted to and just kind of like hide away from the world. But every time I walked back in through those doors, it was like, oh, okay, like the world does feel a little normal. Like when I'm at work, like I can just kind of like be in my own little bubble. And we wore masks throughout like our entire shift, and the protocols and stuff that they've been doing have been really impressive.
You're separated from like a tasting room area, right? If you had a tasting room area, it's not anywhere near you. So that's the benefit you get. And that's one of the things we talked about when we went to open back up. We were like, yeah, people have to wear masks, period. Health condition, not health condition or whatever, because I can't afford the, 6 people I have working in the brewery to get sick. Because if one of them gets sick, it screws everything up. And so I can't afford that. So now we're just masks. If you're in the building, mask kind of thing. And I think because we are only 6 people and one of them lives down the street and it's Asa and a couple of people, there is a little bit more leniency on, masks, not masks and so on. But like,
when you're with the same people
over and over again. And most of the people are like, most of us don't want to get it. None of us want to get COVID, but like, we're also, I think, all and probably on the same board with you is I don't want to get it and give it to someone else. Like that's the biggest thing to me. Like if I get it, I'll survive. We're all young people. We're in somewhat good shape. We're not gonna die from this most likely. But if I get it and then give it to some random person, and I try to equate it to the idea of if you get in a car accident, if I get in a car accident and break my leg and everybody else is fine, I'll deal with that. It's my own fault. I got in a car accident, I broke my leg. But if I get in a car accident and I break your leg and I'm fine, I'm going to hate myself. I'm absolutely going to hate myself. And so like to us and like the brewery, we're just like everybody walking around the brewery, I'm like, we'll just wear a mask because I don't want to like if I'm the one that gets it and then gives it to our packaging manager and now we have canning for a while and or our brewing company lose thousands of dollars because of that, that's not going to be cool. So we still keep our distance and we wear our masks and we do what we can to like make sure that we're safe. But like I was at 20 hours a week for 2 weeks ish. I dropped down to 20 because we didn't know what the heck was going to happen. And then we started doing beer delivery and pickup. So then I just came back to work and worked full time. And because we were canning more beer, there was more things for me to do. Like we designed some more labels and all those kind of things. So it's weird how a couple of months shifting can change what you think is the norm in an industry. Like we're just like, okay, you put X amount percentage in cans and you put X amount percentage in kegs, and we know, what every day looks like, and then shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
And it's
that's
like
all thrown out the window.
And we're like, okay, we have a half a keg that we pulled off the canning line to start the canning line, and now we have pallets of cans to go out the back door. And someone's like, "Can I buy a keg?" And I'm like, "We don't have any kegs. So sorry, I can't. Like, I don't know what to do." And so it's just a weird how that fluctuated and changed. We're still doing mostly cans. We do, if we do a run of a special beer like fruit pie, I think we did like 6 sixtels and like a couple of half barrels. But like that was it, because it was like, you're going to most likely buy a can, because anybody, even if they were working from home in this time, was like, "Oh, it's noon.
Yep.
I still have a lunch beer." It's like if I don't have to go anywhere and I don't want to get drunk at noon, but if I have a beer at noon, I can still do my job. No one's going to stop me if they're working from home. So people were coming and getting beer delivered to their houses every day. Did you guys?
Yeah, you guys you couldn't do delivery before the pandemic, right?
No, I mean, Maine basically says like you basically had to be a distributor to get it to someone's house. And then even Car Hop, which is a service they have in Portland, couldn't do it because you can't, even when COVID hit and they changed the laws, you couldn't deliver beer to someone's house if you weren't the person who worked for the brewery, if that makes any sense. Like, a Car Hop is like a Uber for beer delivery. And they started that thing, but they ended up getting the okay from the state to do it. But like, we were just like, well, I can pay my sales guy hourly wage to deliver it to someone's house. We don't have to pay a commission for it. We don't have to pay anything, no fees. If Jillian, you're like, "Hey, I live down the street," you can get a case of beer delivered for no fees. We encourage tips,
so
obviously.
Awesome.
We obviously encourage tips because that person is doing a job that he's on the front line for us beer drinkers. And they wanted us to check IDs that match the credit card receipt and so on and so forth. We were kind of like, as long as someone was 21 at the door. Like if you were under 21 trying to get beer delivered to your house, you'd figure out a way. All of us were underage 21, figured a way how to get beer. So like, we were just like, okay, if the person's 21, here's your case, move on. The number of people who have come back to our tasting room restaurant since COVID restrictions have kind of like loosened a little bit, we were allowed to open, that said, "You got us through COVID." Like you coming to when I saw the little Mazda car come down the road, I knew beer was on the way. And one of our regulars said, Milo Bissell, the Bissell and Milo, Rivers. We were delivery at like Wednesday to their house, and their daughter would get Bissell delivered on Friday, and they'd switch 4-packs.
Yeah,
it was like,
that's awesome.
Because Bissell wouldn't deliver if you weren't. They basically called you and were like, "Are you home?" And so we had a window we were between. They were just like random, and so one person was working from home, so like, "Oh, I'll get Bissell delivered, and then you get OBC delivered, and we'll swap 4-packs." And it was like the beer industry. I mean, obviously you work in the beer industry, is collaborative. We're if Oskar Blues needs a certain hop, someone down the street has it. They're gonna do something to get it to you. And this time it was like delivery. The customers were working together to help collaborate between breweries. It was pretty badass. I got Bissell delivered a couple times to my house. I was like, I felt like, because I could. I live a little bit further away. I live in Orrington, so it's about 30 minutes or 25 minutes from Orono. And so I felt like no one ever delivers to Orrington. We're that kind of like that outskirt town. Like, we deliver to all these towns, and we're like the one that's like just on the other side of that. And so I was like, I don't need to order Bissell because I can just get OBC beer, obviously, in this time when I'm like, but I was like, I feel like because they will deliver it, I needed to. Because I was like, oh, someone will deliver to my house. Sweet.
Yes.
They ended up delivering a Magnum of Seed, their barrel aged, the berry beer. We opened on a Wednesday, the 1st of July for our tasting room. On the 2nd of July, about 30 minutes before we opened, we sabered that bottle and poured like a little ounce for everybody that was working that day, that week, and being like, "Thank you for coming in. thank you for volunteering to come back to work. I mean, obviously they got paid, but like,
Yeah.
thank you for coming back and choosing to further the brand of Orna Brewing Company. Here's a little like fun thing. So it was kind of fun. It was a beer that they gave me, or gave me.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that.
Yeah,
I
that you
shouldn't say that
shared.
because you
Yeah.
can't give away beer in Maine, but they they donated to me. And we sabered it. It was pretty cool. It was a cool thing to do because it's like they don't get to try a lot of beers from other breweries like we do. Like, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's another thing with all the beer you send me. I don't want to drink it alone because I definitely have to share it with other people. And I'm living with my boyfriend and his roommate, and his roommate is kind of like the OG like packaging guy and just OG like employee at Oskar Blues. He's worked there for 10 years, and he's this big guy with dreadlocks and like has like the heart of gold. He's like the nicest person you've ever met. And like I like share like order beers with him and everything. And so with COVID going on and not being able to have beer shares and not being able to, like go out and hang out with people, I'm like, well, I feel like selfish just like drinking this beer that like not a lot of people have the opportunity to, So
We were, I mean, and as the truth of the matter is, no, I mean, it's not anything against North Carolina, and it's sad for you, but there's not a likelihood that Orna Brewing Company is going to be in North Carolina anytime soon, too, because if you think about it, we're going to pick the towns in the states in this country that don't have a huge beer scene that we can survive in.
Yeah.
I mean, North Carolina is one of the beer capitals of the world, and it's sad in that aspect of it. But it's the same thing. Someone just messaged us today and was like, "You guys have beer in Hudson Valley, New York?" I'm like, "Well, we do in New York City."
Yeah, but
and
Hudson
it's
Valley.
like,
Yeah.
well, it's an hour or whatever. I'm like, I understand that, but like I can only do so much, and so we did expand during COVID. We decided to go into Arizona. We went. We're with Tavor now. So Tavor is the one that ships beer to people. But because
they don't ship it to North Carolina.
Because Tavor also works out of Arizona, they're able to also bring it to beer stores in Arizona. So we were able to get beer in Arizona, which is pretty cool. And I was looking forward to doing that when I went to Arizona. But now we're not going to Arizona anytime soon, because they're being idiots out there. Can you tell all your people you know in Arizona to stop being idiots?
Oh, I am. I have been. Yeah. It's been a battle. I got my cousin to drop off masks for my mother. Like, I'm not even like in the state, got her to drop off masks in this gated community that she's never been to and just drop them off outside my house, outside my mom's house, like just so she'll wear a freaking mask. And this was like in March. And I talked to her yesterday and I'm like, are you wearing the masks yet? And she's like, well, like I have like the past 30 days now. I'm like, that's not enough. Like, I got those to you in March. It's July.
It's funny to us, and I guess a lot of it's all obviously different political backgrounds and opinions on shit and all that stuff. But like, I woke up this morning and I got ready and I'm going into the office and I'm thinking to myself, I want to have this rant right now on Facebook to be like, I'm getting married in less than a month. Yeah. We were gonna go to our Arizona honeymoon, right? That was our plan and so on. I said, I want to get on there and be like, hey, assholes, this is something that your honeymoon is once. The honeymoon I'm going to experience with my fiance and then will be then wife.
Yeah.
It's a once in a lifetime experience to do with that person. It's a honeymoon. Vacations are different. Vacations will happen the rest of our lives. A honeymoon is once that time. And because a bunch of idiots in Arizona, no offense, were being stupid, I had to cancel or postpone it and push it off. And it's something that kind of like hurt me. It was like, I wanted to get on there and be like, hey, idiots, this is not about you. This is about other people. And I thought, in a sense, I'm like, that's selfish because, I mean, I'm mostly thinking about myself. But in the same sense, like, people aren't thinking about them. They're other people. They're thinking about themselves. And it's like, I don't want to wear a mask. And then one of the things I said about this podcast, my friend Brian, who's a co-host we do every other week, is I didn't want to get political, but like the idea is people are making this political and people are making this an issue. It's like, if everybody just wore a mask for a couple of months, we might actually be out of this like right now. And it's just, it's infuriating. There's people, I saw someone post online that they drove to another state to get groceries to avoid wearing a mask because a mask is inconvenient to them, but driving an hour to get groceries.
That's ridiculous. That is beyond ridiculous. Oh, if I have to, since I live in such a small town, everything is so close. Like the grocery store is 4 minutes away. If I have to drive further than 15 minutes away, I'm like, oh man, like I don't.
Which is the
15
difference
minutes,
from Maine,
like,
though. Which is the difference from Maine, because Maine 2 hours is like, yeah, I'll get there, no
that's
problem. 2
how
hours.
it was in Arizona.
But so are you? You're not. So Oscar Blues is in a town. What town is that in? Or
It's in
city?
Brevard, North
Is that the
Carolina.
town you live in, or is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Not to put too much information about you out there, but
No,
so Brevard. So it's in actually a pretty small town. Like, how
yeah.
close are you to other big breweries of same magnitude?
There are like some like smaller like breweries. There's a really awesome farmhouse brewery. There's just like a couple like local ones, but I don't know. There's maybe like 4 or 5, I want to say. In Brevard, Brevard's not like as oversaturated just because it is such a small town. Like the main draw for Brevard there's a couple national forests here, and a bunch of hiking, like mountain biking, anything you can do outside like is in Brevard. So I was living in Asheville, and then COVID hit, and was driving 45 minutes to work every day, and my lease was ending, and so just decided to kind of make the move to Brevard to not have to be driving 45 minutes, every day back and forth to work when I work 10-hour shifts on top of that, and everything's closed. Like, so there's no point in, living in Asheville, which is this awesome, thriving city, but
Yeah.
I can't go anywhere or do anything.
So are most of the big breweries in Asheville, is that where like
Yeah.
the hub is? Okay, so it's like
Yeah.
but I feel like are most of the breweries in that area, like the idea is that you're in the idea of mountain biking and hiking and mountains, and like that's what draws people, like the breweries / outdoors.
Yeah, but more of like the hard, like the serious hardcore, like people who do sports and mountain biking, and like my boyfriend does whitewater rafting. He does everything. He does climbing and whitewater rafting and whitewater kayaking, which I didn't even know it was a thing until I met him. But so everyone who's like super into like outdoor sports like comes to Brevard to do it.
That's pretty cool. I mean, that's like a cool thing that we have in Maine. I thought was the weirdest thing when I was, when I started as the manager of Warner Brewing Company, we were smaller, and we had the 2 small tasting rooms. And so when I came on board, it was like, hey, Justin, you're the first tasting room manager, but we needed a bartender at the same time. So it's like I would bartend by myself. So I'm managing the tasting room, but I'm really not managing an employee directly because I'm by myself and there's no one else there. And so the first time someone came in and was like, hey, I'm here to vacation from Canada. I'm like, cool. Are you gonna go to Acadia? Are you gonna, are you hiking Katahdin? What are you doing? Oh, I'm here to see beer. I'm like, whoa.
Yep.
Time on a second. Maine is known for the outdoors. In the summer you're hiking, you're biking, those kind of things. In the winter you're snowshoeing and ice fishing and crap like that. You're coming to visit for beer? And he's like, yeah.
Yep.
And I'm like,
oh yeah.
Okay, I now I know for sure I'm not leaving this industry because I know I'm going to get paid forever because there's no reason to leave. And then the other part was like, now we can mix the two. And it's like, I feel like even Sierra Nevada are they in Asheville too?
Well, so they're about 30 minutes away from me.
Okay.
They're kind of like on like the outskirts of Asheville. I don't know what city. I want to say maybe Mills River, but like, don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. But they're probably the closest like really large brewery.
And one of the things they had when I read about that was they're the first brewery that I knew, being in this industry, that added a location in that area. Like you have your other breweries that started in Asheville, but there's other breweries like, even obviously you work for a company that added a location in that area. What was the idea was like they have mountain biking trails and all this other crap. It's like, let's mix the two. Let's do the outdooring and let's drink the beer. So let's like do a mountain bike and then finish at your brewery and have a pint. Like that's what's cool about Maine, and I guess with where you are or near Asheville, I should say.
Yeah. So Dale, the man who started Oskar Blues, his mother actually used to live in Brevard, which is why we have like a mountain biking ranch. Although I think he's selling it now because she passed away a couple of years ago, and he doesn't have much reason to come to North Carolina anymore. But so like he chose Brevard in North Carolina, because like our water is amazing here. It's insane. Like you barely have to do anything to treat it. I remember the first time I was talking to a brewer about, their different practices and stuff, and asking about, what they do to treat their water. And they're like, we don't have to. It's like, wait, what? They're like, yeah, we just have a carbon filter. Like, and that's about it. It's like, come again? Coming from Orlando, Florida, where you take a shower and you feel dirtier when you get out of the shower than when you went in because it smells like sulfur.
Is it all the Mickey? It's all the Mickey Mouse pee. right? Is that?
Yeah. Yeah. And so I worked in the restaurant industry for a long time too, and bartending. I bartended and served for about 15 years before finding the beer industry. So I definitely understand like your side of things. And I was kind of up for a position either to be like a assistant taproom manager or to help in the back of the brewery and be a cellarman, and chose to try and be a cellarman. So it's been a
It worked
interesting
out.
path.
It worked
Yeah.
out. And that's the thing is, so I still tell everybody out there, whoever doesn't know a little bit about me as much either, and well, I'm talking to Jillian here, but is that I worked as a designer, graphic designer, marketing person for about 10 years. I worked in Massachusetts, and then I came up here and worked for Downey's Toyota car dealership, which is one of the hardest places to do marketing because I had all these ideas that I wanted to do. When you work for a Toyota dealership, it's like, oh, corporate said we have to do this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, and you can make a flyer for the picnic we're having on Friday. And I'm like, wait, what? Say that again? So when the position at Orono Brewing Company, Orono Brewing Company opened in 2014. I'll say it's 14 technically because it was New Year's Eve, but it's 15 really. So like 2015 is when it started. I came back in 2016. Cool. So Orono Brewing Company was only a year old. So to me, I grew up with Andy Gagan. So down the street from Orono Brewing Company, I say down the street in Bangor in Brewer, it's Gagan's Brewing Company. So I worked for Gagan's first to start off with. When I moved back to Maine, I did some bottling on their bottling line. I did some tasting room serving and some bar backing and so on. So when the position came available at Orono Brewing Company, I was like, I don't care if I have to cancel and get a flip phone. I don't care if I have to like not have internet and TV and all that stuff. If they pay me at the time $9 an hour for minimum wage to work, I will do the job because I want to get into that industry and I want to do it. Now, I thinking back on my 34 years of life, the best decision I ever made was to join the brewing industry in the position that I'm in. I don't want to be in your position. I don't want to clean tanks and I want to brew and I don't want to do that stuff because there's people that are better at it than I am, and I can admit that. I don't mind. I homebrewed at some point. I was like, oh, I'll make a beer. It's pretty cool. And I always overcarbed it. So you open that shit and it went everywhere. But like, I'm in a position that I know I can use my skills, my talents, and all my mental capacity to do the job I'm doing. I mean, this week, I was told to fuck off this week. So a customer came in. I hope, if they listen, that's great, whatever. It worked out well, so I'll turn the story. We are in this COVID restrictions, right? So you have to write your name down, your number down. You have to we are not, you've been to our place. You just walk in, you sit down, do what you want. Now we're in the position where we have to like seat people. We don't have waiters and waitresses and all that stuff, but you have to seat people at a table. So you're at table 2. There's a number on your table. You're supposed to sit at that table. Well, a family came in. There's two adults and a child, and the child wasn't staying by the table. And part of our regulations is the child has to stay at the table. Yeah. I personally think it's because when I've run so many family nights with like free kids eat free kind of nights that it's the kids run away, the parents chase after them. So if you chase after them, you're not thinking, oh crap, I got to put my mask on and then go get my kid. Yeah. It's you just chase after them. So then there's just parents running around. And in my opinion, that's what they're trying to avoid. So I was like, okay, hey, sir, just to let you know, you have to have your kid near your table. And he goes, well, then you can fuck off. And I'm like, okay, that's it. And I'm already tense. Like, I'm already at that point where I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to get COVID. My fiance is high risk, so I don't want to give it to her, and I don't want to do that shit. So I was like, okay, then you can go. And so the wife apologized up and down, and then finally, after they were about to leave, the husband came back and was like, hey, I'm really sorry. It was out of character. And I was like, you know what? Don't worry about it. Next time you guys come back, we'll forget this even happened. You need to go now because I need to set some sort of like.
You need to
this day. Into this that was on Saturday to now. I'm still like, I still want to be in the position I'm in because I like dealing with customers. And I've worked for Orono Brewing Company for close to 4 years now. And that was the first customer that ever told me to do that. Like, it's the first customer that did that to me. I had someone arrested on Wednesday. It's a completely different story that I don't want to get into right now. It has nothing to do with Orono Brewing Company. But like, I've had to deal with issues and tough customers. But when someone told me to fuck off in this time of I'm stressed to the nines, I'm still gratified that I work in the beer industry, in an industry that I get to talk to someone like you and I get to talk to other people and I can call up breweries in other states, or I can call a random ass brewery in Colorado that I don't know and be like, hey, I saw you guys did this beer over there. How'd you guys promote that? How'd you do this? And they're going to go, this is how we did it. Not like screw off. Like if you think in the wine industry, like if you were in the wine industry and you're like, hey, Owner Brewing Company, can I borrow some grapes? You kidding me? You want to borrow our grapes? What are you talking about? In this industry we're in, it's like, hey, I need some Chinook. You got some Chinook? Yeah, I got some Chinook. Just next time you get a delivery, just get it to us or whatever, and and we'll just do that. And that's what I still believe in every day. When I tell the stories now that told me someone was mean to me, I'm like, I don't care. Like this to me, I'll come home. I've got a great fiance at home. I'll be happy in my personal life. That was one moment of someone being pissed at me. Was my heart beating? Was I like ready to fight someone when I don't fight anybody? Yes. But in the same sense, it's like the majority of is collaborative, fun. People come to us for a release. They come to us as a brewing industry people. Someone comes to you, Jillian in North Carolina. It's like, hey, I want to hang out with you, and you're like, here, have a beer, and it's like that aspect of what better job could we have? Like, really, tell me right now, anybody out there wants to tweet at me or message me or whatever, tell me a better job than working in the beer industry. I'll fight you to the freaking. That's the hill I'll die on. Yep. How about that? That's the hill I'll die on, is working in the beer industry. It's and when you work for a good company, and I will believe in the fact that Oskar Blues is in the same vein as Orono Brewing Company in the sense that craft distribution of Maine would not carry Oskar Blues if it wasn't for a good company. They carry Maine Beer Company, great company. Bandit, great company. Oxbow, us. Like all these companies I know for a fact are unbelievable companies. They're not going to create and bring in Oskar Blues to Maine just to make a few bucks if they weren't a good company. So I don't work for Oskar Blues, but I'll tell you right now, I guarantee you they're the kind of people that would hang out with Abe and Heather and Mark and Asa. You know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had friends like visit from Florida before, the pandemic, where I've literally like fallen over because I've been trying to lift so many cases of, low fills and high fills off of the e-beer pallet that I fell over and tipped over, and like I bruised my knee for like 3 weeks. It hurt. Like it was a pain in the ass, but like the point where I was trying to give away like so much of our beer to like my friends that I fell over and hurt myself. Like, yeah, the camaraderie in this industry just can't be compared at all.
I can't. I mean, I worked for Best Buy and Circuit City, both those companies. And Circuit City was the one that I ended up finishing my retail career with. And it was such a thing that we were across the street, and it was like, it wasn't, hey, they have the USB cable at Circuit City for $5 cheaper. Go over there. It was, how much can we get off this person? They were like poaching people. When I was working at Circuit City, it's like, how much are they paying you over at Best Buy? $12 an hour. We'll give you 13 to come here. It's not like that. We're to the point where, like, if we know you, everybody at OBC knows you. If we had a position available, I wouldn't go, hey, Jillian, you want a position at OBC? We'd put it out there. If you were to apply, we wouldn't decline you, but I wouldn't seek you out.
You don't poach people.
Correct. And that's one of those things. And it was kind of funny. We made the joke about that. Was like, at Orono Brewing Company, the last 2 people we got off the same bottling line at Poland Spring. So Tom and Catherine, who were both the last 2 employees we've hired for the brewery, came off the exact same line at Poland Spring. So we made the joke, was like, who's on that line now? Are they any good? And we're like, but we wouldn't do that. It's like, and especially we wouldn't do that in the beer industry. I mean, it's just one of those things that we know how hard it is to hire someone. But let's be real. If someone were to apply and they were qualified, doesn't mean we wouldn't talk to them. It's just, it's the same thing with bartenders. And I'm the one responsible for hiring bartenders. I worked with people like Gagans. I know a bunch of badass bartenders that I'd love to be manager of and love to have behind the bar at Owner Brewing Company. But when I put it out, hey, we're hiring for bartenders, and none of them apply, I'm not contacting them and saying, hey, apply for your job. Because I'm not going to steal anybody from a friend of mine. I'm not going to steal anybody from someone else in the beer industry. If we were in a different industry, hell yeah. Let's cutthroat. We're done. Like, I'll steal anybody I need to make the best money I can make. But in this industry, it's too much on the line. There's too much camaraderie, collaborations, sharing of CO2.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I've got a CO2 canister I don't need right now. Does anybody need it? I mean, there's literally the number of things that we can share as a brewery to make the brewing industry take down big beer. And that's, I think,
Yep.
probably part of it. It's there's no other industry out there that we're fighting this big thing that we're below. I mean, big box stores are just selling stuff. So it's not like us where we're like, you got your Bud Lights and your Budweisers and things like that where we're trying to fight against. So I think it's a little bit of everything. It's still, if anybody has the opportunity, and I'll do this as my sales pitch. I just hired a bartender, so we're not hiring right now. But get your foot in the door. If a brewery position opens up, like the one we just put out right now, no experience necessary, apply for the job. Because
Yep.
guess what? You wouldn't be where Jillian is right now if you don't get in there on that bottom level. It may be cleaning kegs. It may be lifting kegs. It may be doing the shittiest job possible in a brewery. But most breweries won't hire if you don't have experience. And if a job eventually opens up at a brewery in your location that has no experience necessary, as the description, apply for the job. Because that's the only way you're going to get in there. Jillian will now have the opportunity doing CIPs and SIPs at Oskar Blues and other breweries and stuff, that if someone hires an assistant brewer position, she's going to get on that front line of that compared to a person who's worked at Kmart or Sears or whatever. I just said two companies that don't exist anymore, or basically don't exist anymore. If you worked at Kmart and Sears and you're still looking for a job, it's probably not. It's probably there's probably other issues that you had to deal with, not just the fact that you were looking for a job.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like even us, like we've been hiring in almost every department, and there was someone that we just hired who he did have a formal education, but he had no experience whatsoever. And there was someone else who had, I want to say, like 6-7 years in another large scale brewery, and would have been perfect for the position. But the guy who had no experience whatsoever just was a better fit, had a better personality, was passionate. Like passion is such a huge thing and can take you so far, can take you so much further than experience can, and having an ego about everything. And we ended up hiring this spunky little kid who who drives me crazy. I love him. He cracks me up. He has no experience whatsoever, and chose him over someone that has years and years and years of experience, just based on their attitude and willingness to clean kegs and get in on that bottom floor.
And that's true, because I will hire a bartender who has no experience, who has a great personality. If someone comes up to me in their interview, they're like this, that, and the other thing, I'm like, oh, and someone's like, yep, yep, and have 10 years experience. Not only do you have a shitty personality, but then I have 10 years of experience that I have to fix.
Yep.
Like the person who has 10 years experience of working at a brewery that didn't do things right.
Yep.
And it also has a horrible personality, or the guy who has no experience but has a great personality, and you could teach them how to do the right thing their first time and they know how to do it. It's like so not only is hiring someone with a good personality is a great thing, but like knowing what you're doing is also a good thing. So I hired someone last week, Miranda, who was great. She's a friend of a friend, but she has little experience behind the bar, but she has a great personality, and that's what got her the job, not 10 years of experience behind the bar. Because honestly, if you came to me, you're like, hey, I got 10 years experience bartending, I'm like, you have to pour beer. That's all you have to do. Pour beer at my restaurant. That's all you have to do. So don't give a shit about, I know how to make margaritas. I don't care. I honestly don't give a shit. If you can pour a beer, which everybody should be able to, then you're good. That's where I'm selling on. You have to sell me on your personality over anything else. And maybe in a brewery, it's more like you have to sell your teammanship, your ability to say that's the words that we use to own a brewing company. There's never a time in the brewery where that's not my job.
Oh yeah.
And that's like, in order to brewery, there's so much things that's not my job. It would get you one-way ticket to the unemployment line. It's just breweries are so collaborative on the outside, translates that we're so collaborative on the inside, and it's the greatest industry to work in, and you probably can agree with that.
Yeah, and like even like pretty much all of the jobs that I've come from, like I've gotten like the okay and blessing from my head brewers to move on. So the first place I worked at, I was cellaring, and then I got wind that there was another brewery that was hiring, that was looking for an assistant brewer, and got the okay and blessing from my head brewer to go and kind of spread my wings and be able to learn more and grow. And same thing when I left Florida to move to North Carolina, my head brewer was like happy for me to be growing and, you know, moving in an upwards position. And I am, you know, just in the cellar now, but I feel like I've really solidified my skills and my like foundation, like in the brewery, like things that I've learned in just like the past 7 months alone are like so far and above from, you know, just last year when I was working in Florida.
And if we were to do a full circle on this too, it's like it shows like you almost have a resume on your Instagram, if that makes any sense. Like your experience in the brewery, but also like the willingness to be like admit your mistakes and to show how you do your job and that you're dedicated. And it's one of the things that my dad's always given me credit for that I don't get credit for myself is I work for a company. In my company, when I work for that company, I tell my parents, you don't shop anywhere else but this company.
Yeah.
And that's like when I worked for Best Buy, it's like, where are you buying that HDMI cable? Oh, Circuit City? Screw them. Buy it at Best Buy. And so like that aspect of it is where I am proud to be where I work. And it shows that on your Instagram and stuff like that, because it's not just, hey, I work for a brewery, buy craft beer. It's like there's the Oskar Blues is interwoven into that, and to show that someone has that capability to promote the brand they work for. One of our part-time bartenders, Erica, who is a college student, that was like, oh, hey, I know she's gonna leave after she graduates. Abe hired on as a marketing assistant because she had a good following on Instagram. She knew how to use Instagram and was like, hey, she every time a post from Instagram came up, she shared it on her story. It was like she cares where she works for, not just that she has a job. And so when someone applies for a job at a brewing company, it was like, I just want to work because I want to work. I'm not going to hire them.
Yeah, it's the wrong industry too.
It's the wrong. If you want to work and be proud of where you work and enjoy where you work, then we're going to hire you. And that's probably what most people saw for myself and for you and for other people. Like I said, not to pat ourselves on the back, but it's like, be proud of where you work. Be appropriate on social media is probably another thing. One of our bartenders, Caitlin, I interviewed her. She was great for the job. She's a friend of a friend. I said, you know, I asked that friend, hey, what do you think about this person? She's the hardest working person I've ever met. Like, hardest working person. I'm like, cool. Abe, you know, you met Abe probably. Have you met Abe?
I think so.
No, you've met Asa. You know Asa. You know those guys,
yeah,
but like not.
I've definitely met Asa.
So Abe goes, oh my God, she went to Iceland. She wore an Brewing Company shirt to Iceland. Hire her. I'm like, wait, time out. It's like, you've never met this person in your life because she wore our shirt to Iceland. Do you want me to hire this person? I said, thank God that the other kind of people, me and Heather and some other people, said it on the interview because we actually were going to hire a quality person. But Abe was like, oh, she wore a T-shirt to Iceland. Hire that person. So it's like, be proud of where you work is the other part of it. It's just that aspect of, you know, we all live most of us live paycheck to paycheck. We're not rich, but if we can work paycheck to paycheck and be proud of where we work, it's a bonus on everything, and it makes our mental capacity way better. It makes my home life better.
I eat so much ramen.
We got to nothing against Oskar Blues. We got to get you a position in a brewery where you make tons of money.
But, hey, I got special ramen the other day. It was $2 a pack instead of like $15.
Whoa. No, that's not. Someone price gouged you on that one. But so I'm still waiting for that beer you said you were gonna send me.
So they came up here, but they came up here from Florida. Whoa. And then COVID hit again.
Excuses. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. I'm gonna have to find someone in Florida to go.
But I mentioned it
to that brewery, but I didn't end up visiting them since. They came up to Boone, which is about 2 hours from me. Yeah. But Florida is a huge hot spot right now, and
really?
As much as I love them,
is it weird to me that Florida is not surprising at all that it's a hot spot right now?
I know. So I chose to not see them, just just in case.
I
It's a couple
did
of my
mention
really
it,
good
though.
friends, though.
I did mention it to so our other restaurant, Woodman's we should be Bar and Grill, is now Woodman's Brew Pub. We've now joined companies, so they're both the same company. And I mentioned it, the idea of doing the fruit pie series with marshmallow rims
Yeah.
and graham crackers, and
Yeah.
it may take off a little bit, so it'd be kind of cool. We have wild berry coming out next, which is blueberry, raspberry, and strawberry.
Ooh.
That's the next one. This is cherry.
Yeah, it's like almost like embarrassing. Like it's like a guilty pleasure. I'm like, please don't look at me. Like, so there's a brewery in Florida called Playa Linda that has a key lime slice blonde, and they put whipped cream around the edge, and then they roll it in graham cracker. And they ask you too before they do it, because I'm sure there's been men who are like, I don't want fruit in my beer, and like don't put the whipped cream on the glass. And I'm like, wait, why? Don't give me a choice, because then I feel like obligated to be like, why would I want? No, just it's fine. You can just leave it. It's okay. And like it's like almost like shameful, like to be like seen like enjoying that, like doing that to a beer, adding whipped cream and graham crackers to it. But their head brewer is phenomenal, and he just comes up with all these different flavor combinations and different ideas that he really thinks out of the box. And I don't care. It's fantastic, and it works really well.
And that's the thing. It's like one of those things. Like in Maine, you have the pumpkin beer, Pumpkinhead, by Shipyard, and so to me, it's like if you're gonna drink that beer, just go all the way.
Yeah.
If you're gonna ask them for a Pumpkinhead, have them do the cinnamon sugar rim. If you're not gonna drink a craft beer from the area that's not Pumpkinhead, if you're gonna dive in and go, I'll take a Pumpkinhead, just go all in. Just don't worry about it. If you're gonna order key lime or a fruit pie at the bar, just hey, can you put like a graham cracker crust on that? Just go all in. There's no reason not to. No one should judge anybody. They ordered a beer. Period. Like we talked about circle back at the beginning. If they ordered a beer, period. If someone comes up to me and was like, hey, can I take a Kolsch? Do you have a salt shaker? I'm going to give them the salt shaker. I don't care if they're going to put salt in their beer. They ordered a beer. They're at a restaurant. They ordered a craft beer. That's the beginning stage to the rest of it. My fiance, Taylor, does not drink beer that much, but like when she liked Sugar Plum Fairy from Warner Brewing Company, I was ecstatic. It was like she likes a beer from Warner Brewing Company. Doesn't matter now. Now we're moving in the right direction. And she tries every beer that I get. It's not like, it did happen to be that she tried one of Ace's beers. It's one of the ones he makes one time. It's like, but
of course,
that's inevitable.
Of course, it's like one of the.
But like I said, to circle back at the beginning and talk about the other Instagram people, as long as someone's drinking it and trying it, it's a win for our industry, and that's minimal. We've talked for about an hour now, and I think it's been a good conversation about beer. The cool thing is, I thought we'd focus a lot about you being a female in the industry. You're just a person in the industry. We're in a culture nowadays where we need to start thinking about people and not by race or gender or homosexuality or whatever. It's minimal. You're a person. You have blood running through your veins. That's period.
Yeah, everyone just wants to be treated equally.
You're a
like
person
that's what it comes
in
down
the
to.
industry, and that's what's great about it. And I think you share that journey on Instagram. People should follow it at Lady in the Tri-Clamp. I will put the fact that if anybody doesn't understand that relation, it's a play on, or pun, I should say, or play on Lady and the Tramp, which is a Disney movie, and Tri-Clamps, which if you work in a brewery and you don't know what a Tri-Clamp is, try a different industry, because a Tri-Clamp is used every day. So even myself, being someone who works in front of house, knows what a Tri-Clamp is. And so follow her on Instagram. Jillian's been great. She, like I said, she shares her journey as a female in the industry, but just as a person in the industry. Like I said, I really appreciate you coming on. I really appreciate you talking to me. I feel like I felt like a jerk because after I scheduled this time to record the podcast, I realized that you work at 7:30, right?
Yeah, it's no big deal. It's my Friday at least, so.
No, but I laughed because I'm looking at it. I'm going, wait, that's like me waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do a podcast. I'd probably say no.
No, it's no problem at all.
Okay.
I definitely don't get as much sleep as I should nowadays anyway, so it's fine.
So, but you didn't fall asleep. There you go.
Yeah.
It's a win, right?
I'm going to go into work with makeup on though, and everyone's going to be like, why are you wearing makeup? Because I usually go in with like a messy bun and a beer shirt and hopefully clean pants. Most of the time they're not, like they have yeast or hops in them from earlier in the week. So people are going to be like, who's that girl? Like, oh, what?
I have friends that work for another brewery, and they said they make us buy our shirts like that we wear in the brewery. And they asked me why I don't wear my shirt. And I'm like, yeah, because I've seen every brewery person ever who go home who don't have a clean shirt. So I understand why you wouldn't wear that shirt to work. Like if you're going to buy your own shirt, so you're going to wear it out in public so you can promote the brewery you work for without a hop stain on it.
Yep.
But so yeah, at Lady in the Tri-Clamp is on Instagram. You can follow Jillian. She works hard as a brewery person, but also she has 15,000 followers she has to satisfy and post things and say things on Instagram. I really appreciate you coming on. I won't lie. I will tell you now, Jillian was really nervous about coming on here. Now that we're at the end of this podcast, I'll tell you now.
She was like hyperventilating in the shower.
Exactly. So it's not an easy thing. I've gotten used to it now that we're in a number of podcasts and I've been able to do many TV interviews and things like that for a brewing company. It's very difficult to say yes to a podcast and continue to come on. And I really appreciate it. It's, you'll always be able to say that you're the first female on my podcast. There you go.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's awesome. That's really cool.
And it's really cool that you were able to do the first female, but also the intertwine that you're in the beer industry. So that's pretty cool. So,
and let me know if you want, like, any other like girls or anything that I can reach out to. If you,
I think it'd be kind of cool to do because like I said, you have the Instagram that you work for a brewery. I think I want to set up a time where I want to do like a 4 podcast thing where it's like a dude who's an Instagram influencer, you who are an Instagram influencer in a sense that work for a brewery, and then someone else who's a female, and do like an Instagram episode where it's like cool that everybody does their own thing, but it's like different vantage points from everything. We send a beer to a guy in Texas who does an awesome job. He has his dog on there. It's pretty cool. And he puts the beer on the dog's head all the time. So that'd be kind of cool to do something like that in the future. I'm just starting to get under the, things going. And I have a season 2 coming up here pretty soon. So try to book guests. But it'd be kind of cool thing to do, especially where it's like just, Instagram/beer, because I have about 900 Instagram followers, which is, was that? How many times? How many times? 15 times less than you have. And it's like, I do feel like, oh crap, I didn't post this week. And it's like, you have a lot more people who look out for your posts, and I understand the pressure that comes along with that. So, but I really appreciate you coming on and joining me. Have a good day at work, obviously. But yeah, at Lady in the Tri-Clamp is the place to follow her. Maybe we can get a couple more Instagram followers for you. And then next week, I think I have just a hostful podcast, which is pretty cool. My friend Josh is hopefully going to join us. We'll talk some other things. And
hell yeah.
For now, we've been just another podcast. And again, thank you everybody for listening. Thanks for Jillian for coming on. Enjoy your day at work. I'll talk to you later. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.